Hey guys, it's Thursday. Or is it? This might be pre-recorded. Could be any day of the week. But let's assume it's Thursday. So it is time for a new opening clinic. And we are still in season 20. Episode number 4? Doesn't say. I think it's episode number 4. The format has stayed the same. You have asked me questions in the news article on Chess24. And if you're a Chess24 premium member, I shall do my very best to answer your question in like the more or less 5-minute window that we have in this format. So let's jump to question number, I would say 1. And I would say that question comes from none other than Rokko. Now, I'm not sure what the username means. Is it the mountain in Japan? Maybe it's just his name. I don't know. Rokko is saying, I'm thinking about taking up the advanced French to avoid the Rubinstein. Too quiet. Since black can force e5 anyway, with knight f6 after knight c3 or knight d2, why is it so unusual to play e5 immediately? Thanks for all the interesting opening insights and the much more efficient new format. Thanks, Rokko. Disclaimer, normally my insights on the French aren't that interesting, never played it with either color. Having gotten that out of the way, let's get to the French and the exchange, what's called the advanced variation in particular. I believe Rokko could be onto something, because people have been struggling a bit, not just with the pure Rubinstein d takes e4, but also with knight f6 here, when after bishop g5 they do play d takes e4, and it's not, or, well, they don't have to play, they can also play bishop e7, but here after in the delayed Rubinstein after d takes e4, I also think that's pretty hard for white to get anything. So that leaves you with knight d2, when in addition to d takes e4, I believe a critical line is c5, e d5, queen d5, where it's not easy for white to get anything. So people have been a little stuck, and I would not be too surprised if the advanced variation made a bit of a comeback or became even more popular than it is. I don't think it's that out of fashion. We've just seen strong players like Grishuk or Vityugov play it. As for why it's less popular than knight c3, knight f6 or knight d2, knight f6, I'm not sure if the positions aren't identical. Like black loses the tempo to provoke e5 here. It argues that his knight will be okay on d7, but it's of course a different position after both knight d2 or knight c2 than this one, where black can immediately start chipping away at this construction. So the main line is c5, I think. Engines and practice have shown that white has to support this pawn chain, go c3, queen g4, knight f3 or whatnot, don't really work. Knight to c6, knight to f3. And here black faces a serious choice between bishop to d7, I guess knight e7, and the probably main move, queen to b6. I think after queen b6 nowadays it's been more or less established that they want to go a3 here. And here, one reason from my mind, I don't think this is the most popular line for black, but one reason to shy away from these things would be this line with c4, which leads to very fixed structure and very slow play, which, yeah, I'm not sure. White could be better here, but it's not for everybody, and it wouldn't be for me, this structure. Yeah, I find it hard to understand. So I guess one argument is that you have to deal with this, and then you also, of course, have to be aware of a significant body of theory after whatever, knight h6, b4, c takes d4. We recently had this game with b5, and there's all kinds of things. C takes d4, knight f5, and so on and so forth. There's also bishop d7 here, or as I mentioned, bishop d7 immediately. I think now they don't go a3, but they play bishop e2. Once again, black has options. So it's not really a shortcut, the 3e5. It does give black a ton of possibilities. But as I said, initially, I do believe that it might become more popular. There's no clear refutation or clear equalizer that I'm aware of leads to a complicated game where white does have some more space thanks to his pawn on e5. So if your fear is that the game might become too dry after knight c3, d takes e4, or knight d2, d e4, then I believe e5 will suit you well. I'm not sure it will promise you an opening advantage, but yeah, knock yourself out. I don't think it's a bad line, it's just very hard to understand all these positions, especially the one with the locked up pawn formations that I showed earlier. But best of luck to you, Mr. Rokko. Who else is struggling out there? Thrawn. Thrawn saying, "Hi Jan, as a 1e4 player, I struggle with the Berlin. As you might have guessed." No, didn't guess that. I always thought the Berlin is more of a 2800 plus, or let's say 2750 plus problem, and that most others weren't that bothered by it, but I could very much be wrong. In Norway, Carlsen played the early d5 with white against Aronian. Is it a legit try for an edge, or has Aronian just forgot how to react to it? Here's the line. Yeah, I know the line. We'll put it on the board in a second. Cheers and keep up the good work, Thrawn. No, I do believe that it's a legitimate try for an advantage, of course. First of all, it doesn't promise one. It's very hard to promise an advantage anywhere. And secondly, black has options along the way. But I did think that it was a very interesting idea by Magnus. So castles, rook e1, knight d6, knight takes e5, bishop e7, bishop f1. I think later we have a question by Grandmaster Niklas Huschenbeet about why knight f5 is out of fashion, which I will struggle to answer. And there is also knight takes e5 castles, d4, bishop f6, rook e1, and rook to e8 here, which is a major alternative to the move knight f5 as played by Aronian not once but twice recently against Fabiano Caruana and against Magnus Carlsen. So after c3, d5 there's not much happening, therefore white players are now trying to grab some more space, spice it up a little bit. And yeah, I do think this is a serious move when we have seen some new ideas even here from game to game after rook to e8, if I recall it correctly. See, I don't recall it correctly, but I believe that Caruana played bishop to d3 here, while Carlsen went rook takes e8, queen takes e8, queen to d3. And after d6, this is the game Carlsen Aronian, knight to d2. Bishop g5 was the mistake that everyone pointed out, but it's not obvious how black should equalize here. Like computers give c6, but then you have to be willing to play some structure like this, some isolated queen's pawn structure, which might also not be to everybody's liking. Therefore, apologies. Someone's texting me. Who could have expected that? Therefore, yeah, I do believe that it's a legit try for an advantage. Of course, there are alternatives after d5. There's also pawn to d6. And as I mentioned, instead of knight f5, rook e8 is a very major line. But to my mind, knight f5, d5. Very logical too, no? Grab space. Like I said in the last question, these strong players, they value a space advantage a lot, and it's not easy to get one. So whenever they can install a pawn on the 5th rank in the enemy camp, I believe that we have to take it seriously. Therefore, yeah, by all means, give it a shot, but don't expect to get that position every game, because black does have plenty alternatives along the way. In this position after d4, there's also the move knight to e8. The list continues. But best of luck to Mr. Thrawn, pushing the pawn. I know. Then we have Mr. yvesm. He's saying, "Hey Jan, how might you get a small advantage in the following line? d4, d5, c4, c6, knight f3, e6. Is it only possible to strive for an advantage if one does play for knight c3 and goes into the semi-Slav. Or might this also be possible with 4 queen c2? I've played 4 queen c2 quite a bit. I examined the line with 4 queen c2 and found nothing against knight f6, bishop g5 or g3. Alright, I always play bishop g5, I thought that was a decent move. Then I analyzed 5 knight bd2, but the following line more or less equalized by force. Knight b2, c5, dc, bishop c5, cd, queen c7, e3, knight d5. Okay, that looks like a smart line. I also looked at 5 bishop f4, but dc, queen c4, knight bd7, knight c3, a6, e4, b5, queen d3, c5 is nothing for white. Very specific. Do you think that maybe 4 e3 allows for a very small edge? Yeah, maybe. And kind regards, thanks yvesm. So yeah, looks like you've been doing a lot of homework already, yvesm. Not sure what I can add to your observations. Observations? Like I said, I'm not quite sure that after knight f6, bishop g5, the task is so homeless. You didn't give what line. Did I say so homeless? So hopeless. What line? You didn't say what line bothered you here. I used to play this dc, queen c4, and I always thought there's decent chances to get a little something. Of course, there's other lines, h6, knight b7, whatever, you name it. There's options here for black. But I did not think this was a bad line, and I was always quite happy playing it. So maybe you can continue your research there after bishop to g5. Other than that, yeah, the line you gave with knight bd2, what was it, c5? dc, bishop c5, cd, queen c7, that's a nice trick. Regaining this pawn. Yeah, I think I agree, that's fairly solid. These structures, they aren't always hopeless. Well, if white manages to get in a3, b4, bishop b2, or let's say even b3, bishop b2, you could hope for a little plus here. But I do agree that black is fairly solid. Even though, yeah, I wouldn't give up even in such a position. Apologies. I do believe there's sometimes hope here. Then you're asking, yeah, g3 I was never a big fan of either, even though I'm not sure what the quote-unquote refutation is. And bishop f4, I'm not sure, your line was very specific, but I never liked bishop f4 in this setup all that much. So yeah, queen c2, knight f6, bishop g5, that would be my main comment, that I'm not sure why that's so bad. Then you're asking if e3 could give a small advantage. In general, yeah, I don't really think that much in terms of small advantage, because I don't really know what it means. Is it 0-20 and black plays well, and then the small advantage goes away, or it grows, or it's a position where our opponent is uncomfortable? So yeah, I don't quite know what it means, but I do think that e3 is a legitimate try in this position as well. I'm not sure if it's better or worse than queen to c2. If you want to avoid the semi-Slav, you can do so after knight f6 by playing b3, which is a decent line, once black is already committed to c6. This is a playable setup, which doesn't allow all that much theory. While, of course, you do give black the extra option to play f5, either here or on the next move, when, frankly, I haven't spent much time on positions like this, but it does look like, with the knight still on b1, that the plan to exchange dark square bishops should give white a little something, no? b3, what do they do? Queen e7, bishop b2, castles, queen c1, stuff like this. Then bishop a3 next move. And yeah, not sure if we can classify this as a small advantage, but I always thought it's a playable line. Therefore, yeah, e3 might be more up your alley, but also it looks like you've done quite a bit of research or work on this for queen c2. If one always gave up or says, no, this is not playable because the lines end in rough equality, it's going to be very hard to play anything, because most lines end in more or less rough equality and not with a stable, even small advantage for white. Therefore, it's more about, yeah, doing the work and finding positions that you think aren't, now this sounds too negative. You do want an advantage, but that you think suit you, instead of saying, no, this equalizes, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. Therefore, yeah, what I'm saying is maybe don't give up on queen c2 just yet. 4e3, playable move for sure. Alright, there was a lot of rambling. Best of luck to yvesm, by me, not by him. Punishing those triangle players. Also check out Sopiko's video series, what she gives against the moves we just talked about. And so you're ready for prepared guys that are watching the video series. Breaker 90. He's asking, which variation against the Najdorf do you prefer? The English attack or the Adams attack? English attack bishop e3 or the Adams attack h3? I've never heard it called the Adams attack. Is that you, Mickey Adams? Are you Breaker 90? Are you trying to coin it? h3 is the Adams attack. Are you trying to take credit, sneak it in there? And also, aren't you English? Michael Adams, I mean. Can't you already take credit for the English attack? I thought Adams was also among the first to popularize the English attack. I'm not sure if he can have all the lines against the Najdorf. Like both bishop e3 and h3. Sounds excessive to me. Anyway, the English attack seems more popular, but lately black has good ideas to attack, and it's very theoretical. Meanwhile, the Adams attack seems very practical and less theoretical. Not sure I agree with that verdict. When it comes to which one I would prefer, I don't really know. I know a little more about the English attack than the... I'll stick with it for now. For now you won. We'll call it the Adams attack. So I probably prefer that just for pure, quote-unquote, not quote-unquote, knowledge reasons. But I would not agree that bishop e3 is that much more popular and that much more theoretical. Because h3, especially at the highest level, has been all the rage recently. Anyway, let's go through the options. Bishop e3. I quite like white's chances in the classical English attack lines with stuff like this. I'm probably gonna mess up the move order, and all you Englishers out there will make fun of me. But in general, all this stuff, I'm team white. Not saying white is winning, but saying white can generate chances. This is just one random line that's interesting. There's thousands of others. Thousands might be strong, but there's lots of other lines. Knight h5 also exists, 95. Whatnot. So I quite like these positions. Bishop e3, e6, f3. I also quite like for white. b5, queen d2, and then the good old g4 plan. Also seemed quite promising to me from the white point of view. So in this move order, I've always been team knight g4, where I'm not quite sure how white gets an advantage. All these lines, what is it? Bishop g7, h3, knight e5, f3, knight bc6, bishop f2, stuff like that. I always thought black was doing reasonably okay here. Well, the sharper lines like h3, knight e5, knight f5, I believe have been analyzed very deeply to egality. So knight g4 always annoyed me a bit, but it can be avoided by starting with f3, which I guess most of the time will also get us to our English attack lines. So I quite like that, and other things being equal, f3 in a way looks like a more logical move than h3 to me, because f3 prepares g4, and then we will only need one move to play h4 if we need support for the pawn to reach g5, and it also covers the e4 pawn, so the center is a little more secure. Of course, that's a very general, broad viewpoint. And h3, nowadays, probably a more popular move, as I mentioned. That's why I slightly disagree with your premise that this is more practical, less theoretical. Then f3, also a serious option, trying to fight for an advantage. I am not quite sure what to do after e5. Like the main line always used to be knight d2, tending to play g4, and knight g3 later. And here these positions after h5 or b5. b5, g4, b4 was it? I never knew, or I still don't know, how white is supposed to fight for an advantage. Svidla, I think, recently played this, which might be interesting. They started experimenting with other moves here as well, like knight to f3. We've recently seen some Vichy MVL game. Therefore, h3 does leave a lot of scope for experimentation, but I would still consider reasonably theoretical. While after e6 you go g4, there's also a serious body of theory here. d5 exists, and then the main lines are these knight f d7, g5, bishop e7, and bishop e3 or h4 things. This is a nice little trick, by the way, not very relevant, but nice little motive. So, what I'm saying is both lines are serious tries against the Najdorf. I don't know as much about h3 as I know about English attacks. So in my very practical worldview, I would probably, if the aliens forced me to play 1e4, I would go for f3 or bishop e3, and if they go knight g4, I'd go back and say, alright, I was just checking, no, let's play f3, and play the English attack. But I'm not really saying it's superior or inferior to 6h3. Both are lines that we will continue to see at the highest level of chess, which probably won't give white a winning advantage, but will continue to be discussed. Both are full-fledged main lines, bishop e3, h3, and bishop g5, the three sharpest ways to meet the Najdorf. And I don't expect any of them to go away anytime soon. So if you want a recommendation, I would probably play bishop e3 and f3, but 6h3, as long as you're aware that there's a lot of theory with that one as well, just as playable. Was that a recommendation? Now go bishop e3, come on. Who else do we have? We have Mr. Ewok. He's saying, hi Jan, what is your opinion on using the Nimzo move order to play the Semi-Slav? I know that Anand has used this. I'm pretty sure Anand has also used the Slav move order to play the Semi-Slav, no? And this would eliminate the exchange Slav, Queen c2 Slav, and knight f3, e3 Slav options for white when compared to d4, d5, c4, c6. I'm well aware. I am aware that this does add two big openings, the Catalan and the Nimzo. As a 2200 plus player, humble brag, is this impractical? The Catalan I've experienced with, but the Nimzo is very new to me. It's funny, we had pretty much the same question earlier in this opening clinic where I think Gustav Chatterjee said, I'm okay with the Nimzo, but the Catalan bothers me. And he also wanted to combine the Semi-Slav with that stuff. I've watched your excellent series on the Nimzo, thank you, but am scared that I will forget a couple rare lines and be crushed in an OTB game. Is this an opening that I can play without too much memorization? Short answer, yes. Especially if you want to play the Semi-Slav. The Semi-Slav is way more theoretical and way more depending on single moves than the Nimzo. So yeah, the Nimzo you can very much play without too much memorization. I believe it's more of a common sense opening than, yeah, the Semi-Slav or the Vienna that I recommended. Stuff like that, because basically you have options. Of course, you can make it theoretical, and I quite like making things theoretical. But let's say, what options does white have? After e3, we don't really need to know anything. We go castles, and then we fight for the center, d5, c5. There's a ton of lines that are playable. Knight e2, we can go rook e8, c6, d5, whatever. Everything's possible. So e3, we don't need to know anything. f3, we might have to know a little something. But I think I recommended some very sharp stuff with c5, d5, b5, which makes it a little move by move. But if you feel like, oh, I forgot everything, but I'm okay playing a Benoni-like position, you can always play d6, short castles here, and see what happens. Or you can go d5, where also you don't need to know all that much. a3 you take. Now you go c5, which is theoretical, or c6, which is not very theoretical. And, you know, take it from there. What else is there? Queen c2. Yeah, Queen c2 I'd recommend having a repertoire against. I gave castles followed by d5. d5 immediately is also very possible. Both these are kind of theoretical. Well, if you feel like not playing any theory, you can, even here you can play c5, dc, bishop c5 followed by queen b6 or whatever. Which, yeah, makes things a lot less theoretical. So what I'm saying is, Nimzo's fine. I think it's more of a common sense opening than pretty much any other major opening. Like the Grundfell, you have to know a lot more. The King's Indian, I think you want to know a lot more. The Semi-Slav, you certainly want to know a lot more. And so on and so forth. Maybe not the Slav, even the Slav you have to know. Therefore, yeah, I'm not quite sure what you're asking. I do absolutely believe that the Nimzo is playable. And yeah, I gave what I think about lines in my series on the Nimzo. As for the fear of forgetting lines and being crushed in an OTB game, I have that fear every time I play too. It's probably not the healthiest attitude, but I don't think it's the Nimzo's or any opening's fault. You're allowed to prepare or to not prepare. And if you want to have a manageable repertoire, Nimzo certainly is a healthy ingredient. As for play the Nimzo or play the Slav move order, I've done both, especially when I was a Semi-Slav player. I would normally make it opponent dependent. Oh, this guy plays the exchange Slav. Nah, not in the mood. Or this guy plays knight f3, e3 Slav. I'm okay with that. I'll use the Slav move order. This guy plays the Catalan. I don't want to deal with it. I use the Slav move order. Stuff like that. So I was always happy having both options. But frankly, I was normally bluffing the Nimzo. I hadn't really studied it, and I was still having it as a part of my repertoire. Because first of all, most white players don't go there. And if they do, I would thought, okay, I'll make some moves. So I wasn't even that afraid to forget my memorization, because normally I didn't really know much stuff in the Nimzo when I was playing it. Now I know a little bit. Anyway, go for the Nimzo move order, and don't forget about that Slav move order. Ewok, best of luck with it. aisthesis is saying, hi Jan, is there any point in playing the exchange French as white if you do not go c4 after 4 knight f3 bishop d6? I generally dislike playing isolated queen's pawns position. But looking at the variations after knight f3, bishop d6, bishop d3, knight e7 is depressing me quite a lot. Wow. Mainly due to the fact that white can't go even for some schematic castles, h3, bishop f4, rook e1, c3, knight b2 setup, like in the knight f6 lines. Is there any wondrous solution to my problem that you know? What would I know there though? aisthesis. Thanks in advance. The new format is indeed much better. Thank you. So the answer is no. Or the answer is play c4. Come on. I think last season I was saying the exchange Slav might be making a bit of a comeback. Magnus had some games, Vishy had some games. Serious people are starting to look at the exchange Slav also via the Petrov move order. And after knight f3, bishop d6. Yeah, if you want to have an interesting game, I believe c4 is what you should do here. You're saying you don't like isolated pawns, but after c4, you don't necessarily get one. I understand after dc4 we do have an IQP, but this is a bad line for black. dc, bishop c4, knight f6. Here you can study the move queen e2 check. Counterintuitive, but a good move. And after queen e7, queen takes e7. Somewhat surprisingly, this endgame, it's not fun for black. It's pretty tough to play. Check it out. Both bishop e7 or king e7. Black does not equalize fully here. So to just, inflict you with an IQP is not gonna cut it. Therefore, normally they play c6 or knight to f6 here. And after knight to f6, you can play this structure if you want to, which is not really an isolated pawn structure. Well, like after c6, once again, there's options. And here, this might be the one where it is probably best to play with an IQP here to play bishop d3 and accept this position, which, yeah, I still think is playable, but here I would understand your dislike a little more. But even here, you do have the option to play c5, bishop c7, bishop d3, whatnot, and get a different structure. So, long story short, if you want to play the exchange French for an advantage, you have to be willing to somewhat alter the structure at some point. because after bishop d6, bishop d3, as you mentioned, there's knight e7, or I think normally they start with knight c6 here, but there's knight e7 intending bishop to f5. And yeah, can't help you there. I don't see anything. This looks very equal. Indeed. Therefore, yeah, I don't think it's worth playing this line if you're not willing to go c4 after bishop d6, which is sort of, yeah, the point why this is a legitimate way to try to fight for an advantage. So the answer is no, but also don't be too scared of the IQP positions, because here dc4, good for white. Anything else I have to add? No, I think that's all I have to say about it. No secret plan involving c3, queen c2, bishop d3 here. That gives you an edge. Just go c4. Come on, aisthesis. You can do it. Who else do we have? We have Wes on the Hudson. Is that Wesley So? Probably not. He's saying, hi Jan, in the fried liver attack. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. Bishop c4, knight f6, knight g5, d5, ed knight d5, knight f7. An opening worth pursuing? Or does it just have a cool name? Is that the fried liver attack? I'm bad with the names of gambits. And is the fried liver attack a cool name? Is that like a Hannibal Lecter situation? I never thought about it. Fried liver. I don't know. I mean, I do know the answer to the question, but I'm not sure if we can call that a cool name or not. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, knight f6, knight to g5. Looks like a beginner's move, but is actually a very serious try for an opening advantage. d5, e takes d. And here, no one really plays knight takes d5, do they? Like, you have the occasional outing. But it's not a line I would be very concerned with. I would say, of course, amongst good players, probably you will get knight a5 90% when, yeah, the fun starts. Bishop d3 or bishop e2. And then you might get b5 or knight d4, c3, b5. The other, what did I give knight a5 90? Let's say another 8%. Knight takes d5. Once again, amongst. Probably Grandmasters would be a very low number. After knight d5, I always thought that d4 is supposed to give white an advantage. Therefore, I've never, well, I'm not an e4 player, but I've never seriously considered this with black, because there's not only knight f7, but also d4, which is unpleasant. I understand they do some stuff like bishop e6 or bishop b4 check, but I don't think those equalize fully. So there was one big turnoff from black's point of view. And then knight takes f7 also seems to favor white, even though it's a huge mess. And it will normally lead to position if both sides know what they're doing. Where white remains a piece down but continues to have a serious initiative. Therefore, yeah, I'm not sure if it's the most practical choice for white when d4 gives you an advantage without having to know very much, but it is certainly very dangerous. Knight c3, I believe it's been established that knight e7, d4 sort of loses for black. E takes d, there's some fun lines like bishop f4, dc, long castle, cb, king b1. Then next move we give a check, and then we take all the pieces and win. Computer gives +5 here, which is a lot. So knight c7 not supposed to work, but knight to b4, and the fun continues. There's many options here for white. Bishop b3 is a move, a3 is a move, king d1 might be a move. There's nothing clear-cut. Short castles is the most common, but then after c6, d4, queen f6, how does this go? There is no checkmate yet. It's messy. Queen d1. I'm just reading out computer moves here. I have no idea what's happening, but that's what I was saying. That normally it leads to positions where white remains a piece down, but does have an ongoing initiative. Like this one, rook e5, king d8. And it is a bit of a mess, where probably the player Who's more creative, who has better tactical vision, calculates better, is a big favorite. Or who just knows all the lines till the end. That might also work. So from a space barring perspective, this was interesting. When once again, computers think white is somewhat better, but it does lead to similarly created positions if the black king starts to run. Nothing obvious there. There's also a3 directly, but then after takes, knight takes a1, knight takes d5. This is a game like, I think Shirov, so was it Malisauskas? Where I believe king d6 was played, but comes say that queen h4 is a good move here, counterattacking as the c4 bishop, and black is okay. So a bunch of theory. I don't know, I haven't like spent all that much time on this because I've never intended to play this with black. I don't know if you investigate a little more here, if you can find a win after bishop b3 or short castles or king d1. I would not go here with black because all these positions are very, very scary. And d4 also, as far as I know, gives white a small advantage, at least without having to know anything. So not a good line for black instead. To have fun, investigate b5 or knight a5, followed by c6. I hope that answers your question about the fried liver attack. I didn't know it was called that. What do we have? We have luzhinsparachute. He's saying, hi Jan, I believe e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6. Oh, sorry, here we are. I believe e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, cd, knight d4, queen b6 is considered to be slightly dubious. Do you agree with that assessment? What is white's most dangerous try? I play it from the black side. Thanks as always for your nice work. My answer, first of all, I'm not sure if it's considered to be that dubious. Like, I think it's on the list of playable Sicilians which have their body of theory, but don't have that much theory yet that there's no room for messing around a little, and I don't think it's been refuted yet. You see decent players playing it once in a while, like I think Nepomniachtchi recently had a game, and so on and so forth. So my answer would probably be a cynical one, that if I saw someone does this d4, cd, knight d4, queen b6, often I would just try to make it hard for them to get there. Like either play 3 bishop b5, which I guess you used to have a repertoire against, but also knight to c3 could ask some unpleasant questions, because now you try to transpose to your repertoire with knight f6, d4, cd, knight d4, queen b6. Now bishop e3 I believe is strong. Is this the line? Yeah, I think so. Queen b2, knight db5, queen b4, bishop d2, and white comes out on top. So I'm normally, whenever there's a chance, quite inclined to try to move other people out of their pet openings and try to make life tough for them. And often I won't choose a line like queen b6 as even a surprise repertoire if I feel, okay, I can't get it. And after knight c3 or bishop b5, it's too much work having a backup repertoire around it. So that would be what would bother me about it. Then queen b6 itself, honestly I don't know very much. Like I know the main line is knight b3, knight f6, knight c3, e6. And here it's not fully established. The standard play is bishop e3, queen c7, f4. Where white might be better, but I don't think that's clear, and that gives you a fighting Sicilian. So the probably theoretically most challenging move, I believe, has been considered to be queen to e2. When, black has to figure out what to do. The main line is bishop to b4, bishop to d2. And next move we want to go a3. When, I guess this is sort of the territory where black is not quite sure how to get an equal position or how to get fighting position. I've seen people experiment with structures like those, but it did seem like white is a little to be preferred in those. Well, after bishop d2, there's also this line with short castles, a3, does it go a3, bishop e7, long castles, and I guess d5 was the best move, trying to get some French structure, which might be playable, but normally Sicilian players want a more fluid structure, and that is probably risky to get here with black, because after d6, g4, or f4, these attacks are coming quite quickly. So I would guess the most challenging is the queen e2 line still. And yeah, I would be more annoyed from a practical perspective that it's not really a full repertoire and they can move over me with knight c3. However, if you're saying knight c3, you know, I'm very happy with the accelerated dragon. So bishop b5, g6, I'm also happy. Then you can start, you know, saying you have a complete repertoire. And yeah, this 4 queen b6 line, I'm not sure how much scrutiny it would survive at the highest level, but currently I don't think there's a refutation out there, and I think at least, yeah, as an offbeat line you play once in a while to surprise people, it's not, yeah, not a bad line. So I hope that helps. Maybe it doesn't. Not sure. I don't know enough about the pros and cons of queen b6. But yeah, this queen e2 would be what I would be most concerned about from a theoretical perspective. Then we have another question by Mr. jorgecc. I believe that is already the last question that we will cover in today's installment. Have I been talking more quickly today? I feel like I've been fast today. Anyway, he's saying, hi Jan, d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, b6, g3. What are the pros and cons of 4 bishop a6 or 4 bishop b7 in the Queen's Indian? Thank you very much. Yeah, the trend has changed a little bit in the Queen's Indian because, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, people played bishop a6 way more often than bishop to b7. And by people, I mean grandmasters. I'm not sure how much the distribution was at all the levels, but it felt like at least the theoretical debate was way more centered around bishop a6 than bishop to b7. While now it feels like bishop b7 is at least as popular as bishop a6. And I'm not sure if that has anything to do with bishop a6 being bad, but it could also be that it's a little unpractical to have bishop a6 as your repertoire, because you have to be ready for so much. You have to be ready for the move queen to c2, when the main lines are theoretical mayhem after all this stuff, where white sacrifices a pawn but gets very strong initiative to counter it. So you have to know a lot of stuff there if you want to go for this. Then you do have very respectable sidelines like queen a4, as I used to play, bishop b7, bishop g2, c5 takes, or short castles, when the play is very, very different, but you still have to know exactly how to handle such positions. Similar things could be said about queen b3, when I don't even know what they do these days, if they play knight c6 or d5 or whatnot, but queen b3 also legitimate move. So is knight b2. So pretty much every sensible way to defend the c4 pawn has its own body of theory, while at the highest level, recently, the main discussion has been around the move b3, which I guess has always sort of been the main move. But now they go bishop b4 check, bishop d2, bishop e7, losing a tempo to lure the bishop to d2, because it's worse there than on c1, from where it can go to b2. And now white decides between knight to c3 and bishop g2. Even those two can lead to very different play. Like knight c3 keeps the option to not go bishop g2 at all, but to push e4 after castles, let's say e4, or after c6, which is also played, to go e4, d5. Now e5, or bishop d3, like this. Many different lines. Kayakin at the candidates, when was it, 2 years ago, which he won. He defended this position successfully. Went knight c3, d5, cd, ed. Structure where I normally say, whenever we get something like this, I try to avoid the structure with the black pieces. He didn't try to avoid it, and he held it against Karana, Nakamura, I guess Giri, all the heavy hitters, and made a couple draws here. But it's not easy for black to play either. So those are sort of the theoretical obstacles. And yeah, when it comes to what the difference is, I would say that you just have to know more when you play bishop a6, while the payoff might not necessarily be higher. It's not like you get a great position automatically after b3. So bishop b7 has always been around, and of course does have quite a bit of theory as well, but it's a line you can play more on feel without too much memorization. This word, I don't like that much. Too much knowledge. So the knowledge never had to be there. You didn't even have to memorize stuff, because you can more or less play this position. After castles, knight c3, you meet with knight to e4 and take it from there. Trying to simplify a little bit. Black is very solid here. And if white goes for this pawn sacrifice d5, this might be the one line where you have to be up to date or somewhat prepared with black. I made a video series about this, what's it called? Opening for white according to Alpha Zero. I don't know what I called it. Play the Queen's Indian like Alpha Zero, where we covered this stuff in some detail. And as far as I know, black is holding his own here. But here you do have to know exactly what to do as a black player. But other than that, there's not that much theory around bishop b7. Like, there's also rook e1 here, where I guess you need to have a repertoire, knight to a6 or d5. But compared to all the lines you have to know after bishop a6, it feels a little more manageable. Therefore, I believe it's a more practical attempt, and from a theoretical perspective, I'm not aware of a way to put a lot of pressure on black after this bishop b7 setup, except for the pawn sacrifice, which, of course, also is not everybody's cup of tea for white, because here you're a pawn down and you have to know a lot of stuff yourself. Therefore, I have a feeling that bishop b7 currently is a little more en vogue than bishop to a6. That could, of course, change back if people start consistently getting an advantage. I don't know where, after knight c3 here directly, or in one of these lines. But currently I think black is quite solid there and doesn't have to know all that much. So at this point in time, bishop to b7 does get my vote over bishop to a6. However, my main vote, of course, goes to d5 instead of b6, because it occupies the center, all the good stuff. And I'm half kidding, of course. The Queen's Indian is a legit opening. But d5 these days has replaced the Queen's Indian in most people's repertoires against 1d4. That is it for today's episode of Jan's Opening Clinic 20, episode 4. I'll see you guys next week with episode 5. What's it called? The Empire Strikes Back? Is that episode 5? I do not know. I don't speak Star Wars all that well. Thank you guys for... Now I have to Google it, right? Yeah, Empire Strikes Back. I do know my Star Wars. Who would have thought? Anyway, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.